Hello, I'm the real life fake wizard, and you should be furious right now. If what we're about to talk about is real and should these shadows remain unchanged, it will be the worst thing that PlayStation has ever done. Sony Interactive Entertainment was caught embedding a 30-day expiration timer into the metadata of every digitally purchased PlayStation game starting in March of 2026. The behavior was first flagged by independent modders. Media preservation researchers reproduced these findings within 24 hours, proving that yes, something was indeed there, tracking via an expiration date. Sony's own customer service AI agents are now confirming in writing that the timer applies to all new purchases. And to be clear, as these reports have come in, some normal folks have been able to replicate the issues online, and some haven't. At one point, it was reported that this was a bug and Sony was going to fix it. Personally, I don't buy that at all. All the while, Sony has said nothing on the record for almost a week. What all this means, though, is that the digital games that you buy, which are licenses, not real game ownership, now expire every 30 days unless your console reaches the PlayStation Network every 30 days. If you bought a digital game from the PlayStation Store after March 2026, you do not own that game in any historical sense of the word. Instead, we can call it a renewable permission, and Sony controls the renewal. You should be furious about this. This is the next step in you owning nothing and having no control over the things you've bought. Whether you actually are furious or not depends on whether you've been paying attention to what the gaming industry has done to the meaning of the word buy over the last 15 years. Well, I think we might be at a place where it is time to start canceling your PlayStation Plus subscription. Let's take a hard look at what's actually happening here, why Sony is doing this, and where this is going if the people who buy PlayStations don't change their behavior and fight back. Hey, now hang on there. Before we continue, big announcement. We have a brand new home for all of our live streams, Fake Wizards Live. All our streams are moving to this new channel, effective right now. So if you've been catching us live on this channel, go over there instead. The Real Life Fake Wizard will exclusively be videos from here on out. Here's the schedule. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, we're bringing you Fake Wizard News. Thursday, we're running 2 streams. First up, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, Culture Crossfire for brunch, featuring myself and Marvin Montanaro of the M4 Empire, where the culture is caught in the crossfire. Then, later on Thursday night at 9:45 p.m. Eastern, Fake Cast is back, where we'll cover all the major movies, television, and game releases every single week. So that's 3 shows a week, all on Fake Wizards Live. The link is below in the description and in the comments too. Come on over and subscribe so you don't miss us going live. We'll see you there. Why is Sony doing this? Well, Sony is a publicly traded company. Their executive compensation, their stock price, and their career trajectory of every senior leader inside Sony Interactive Entertainment is tied to one number above all others, and that is the operating margin of the gaming business unit, which what that really translates to is a percentage metric that indicates how efficiently Sony converts revenue into profit from its gaming operations. That percentage gets reported quarterly. Wall Street analysts model it, activist investors apply pressure when it slips, and every meaningful business decision Sony makes in gaming flows downstream from the question of how to grow that percentage from one quarter to the next. The 30-day DRM timer is a margin play. It is doing 3 things to Sony's revenue model simultaneously, and each one of them adds up to real money on the income statement. Are you bringing shareholders value today? The first thing it does is reduce account sharing. Right now, large numbers of PlayStation digital libraries are functionally shared between 2 or more households. One person buys the game, designates a console at their parents' house or their friend's apartment as the secondary system, and then 2 people get access to that game for the price of one purchase. Sony has known about this for years and tolerated it because going after this practice aggressively would generate customer relations problems that exceeded the recovered revenue of if they fought it. Think of this like how Netflix has password sharing prevention now. The 30-day timer changes that math a bit. A secondary console that does not sync to PlayStation Network within 30 days now loses access automatically. The customer relations problem disappears because the cutoff happens silently in the background with no enforcement action that any individual customer can point to as Sony's fault. The second thing it does is build a foundation for an active licensed database that becomes a high-value corporate asset. Every 30-day check-ins tells Sony that a specific console tied to a specific account in a specific geographic region played a specific game during a specific window. Multiply that across roughly 120 million active PlayStation users, and what Sony is building is one of the most granular, real-time consumer behavior data sets in all of entertainment. That data can be sold to publishers as analytics, or it can be used to time price drops with mathematical precision. It can be packaged into recommendation engines that drive higher conversions on the storefront, which we have already seen Sony experimenting with dynamic pricing, which, if you haven't heard of dynamic pricing, it means I might see one price for a game, and you might see a different price for the same game at the same time. Check-ins like this elevate the authenticity of this dynamic pricing system. Every quarter that data exists, it generates revenue that did not exist before, and the 30-day check-in keeps the data fresh. The third thing it does is increase what's called platform lock-in, which is a diabolical talking point. The longer a customer has used a PlayStation, the more digital purchases they have accumulated, and the more painful it becomes to switch to a competing platform when the next console generation arrives. A digital library worth several $1,000s is a powerful argument against switching to Xbox, even when Xbox might be offering a better hardware deal, which they're not. That's a hypothetical. Settle down in the comments. The 30-day timer makes that lock-in tighter because every 30 days, the customer is implicitly reminded that their library is contingent on staying connected to Sony's network. Switching platforms now means walking away from games that, by Sony's own contractual language, you no longer have unrestricted access to anyway. Oh, what's that? You looking at a gaming PC? Oh, Asha Sharma might be making Xbox more viable for gaming in a few years? No, your games are here. And you need to be here too. In fact, you're not going anywhere. Why is this bad for you? Well, the customer side of this transaction is not symmetrical with the corporate side in any way. Sony gains optionality, and you're the one losing it. When you buy a digital game from the PlayStation Store, you are entering into a contract whose terms can be modified by Sony at any time with no notice, no compensation, and no realistic recourse. The current modification is a 30-day check-in. The next modification could be anything Sony wants it to be, and the language in the end-user license agreement that authorized this will authorize that too. You are not negotiating with Sony. You are accepting whatever they decide on a rolling basis in exchange for the convenience of playing your games on this platform and not wanting to stand up and put a disc in the tray. This is a structural issue. The console you own no longer belongs to you in any meaningful operational sense. A PlayStation 5 sitting on your shelf, disconnected from the internet, can no longer execute its primary function beyond a 30-day timeout. The hardware might work, the software might work, but the contract has been modified to override both of them. Sony has retained a remote shutoff capability that activates by default on a schedule they control with no input from you. The everyday meaning of "I bought this" has been quietly replaced with "I am currently permitted to use this." Most gamers have not even noticed this yet because Sony has been careful to keep the friction down enough so the mainstream normies don't notice. But that threshold is where things get dangerous. Every successful contract tightening makes the next one easier because the customer base has now demonstrated that they will accept the previous one with zero questions. So based on this, what's coming next? The 30-day timer is the deployment that lets the next development make sense. And the next development, on the available evidence, is identity verification. Yeah, I'm serious. Biometric harvesting is the next logical conclusion. And you may say, "Wizard, that's crazy." Poppycock. If you think that's crazy, you really aren't paying attention enough. Exhibit A. Sony filed a US patent in 2019 for a PlayStation controller with biometric authentication built into the device. That includes fingerprint scanning, palm vein recognition, and an interior eye scan called fundus oculi. The patent identifies parental controls as the headline use case. The hardware design has been sitting in their portfolio for 7 years already, just waiting for a business reason to ship. Exhibit B. Discord attempted to deploy a biometric system in March of, you guessed it, 2026, but it did have a rocky rollout. If Discord's AI system cannot figure out your age, then to use most of the features on the platform, users must now complete a facial age estimation through a video selfie or upload a government ID. The rollout came 4 months after Discord's vendor was breached in October of 25, exposing approximately 70,000 government ID photos. We had a community server of 1,000 people, and I shut it down over these bastards. There's no reason that you need to give your biometrics over to use Discord. There's also no reason you should have to give your biometrics over to play Ape Escape. Exhibit C. The UK Online Safety Act has been in enforcement since July of 2025 and lists biometric age estimation as an approved verification method. Australia's social media minimum age law took effect in December of 25. The European Union's official age verification app became technically ready 12 days ago at the time of recording this. Roughly half of all the US states have age verification statutes on their books. Each of those laws gives a platform the cover and the permission to deploy biometric verification under the framing that the government requires it, and the platform benefits from the customer control friction either way. So is it crazy to expect that a 30-day login window isn't the precipitating event before a biometric requirement? We just explained earlier why Sony wants to harvest the data from these operations. Ask yourself this: why does a video game company need to see your biometrics? None of this is necessary to deliver a video game. All of it is profitable, though, in one way or another. But enough with the prophesizing, wizard. What in the heck led us to this point? This didn't just pop up overnight. The honest answer is that Sony is responding to a market signal that their customers sent them with money over the course of more than a decade. In the first quarter of Sony's 2025 fiscal year, 83% of PlayStation full game software revenue came from digital downloads. That figure was 60% in early 2019 and roughly 19% in 2015. The trajectory has been steadily upward for the entire period. Total US new physical game sales in 2025 reached $1.5 billion, the lowest figure since the industry began tracking it in 1995. Globally, digital distribution now accounts for roughly 95% of all video game sales across PC and console combined. That data was collected by Sony's commercial planning division and by every other major publisher. The customer base has demonstrated, with money, every quarter for 6 consecutive years that contractual specifics are not meaningful as a purchasing factor. Customers chose convenience. They keep choosing convenience. Every single one of those purchases was a vote, and the votes accumulated into a clear instruction to Sony and to many of these other gaming conglomerates. Tighten the contract, and gamers will pay anyway. This is the part of the story that the gaming-aware audience has been shouting about for years on places like Reddit, on YouTube, on Twitter, in podcast episodes. Gamers are no-action, docile, domesticated consumers. Probably not you watching this, to be very clear. I'm not attacking you. If you made it this far into the video, if you even clicked on something like this, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and you probably have advocated against this too, just as I am. No, the problem is the docile gamer normies, the ones in the middle, who have their fingers jammed into their ears and they're bent over with their wallets exposed. These people hear about each new outrage, shrug, and pre-order the next digital release anyway because they don't care. They're not willing to care. to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, and every individual decision feels small to them. One game doesn't matter, but that's like frogs in the boiling pot. They don't know it's boiling until it's too late. And that brings us to a point here. I don't know if Sony can be stopped at this point. At the time of recording this, Sony still hasn't spoken about this publicly. Back in 2013, when Xbox One was announced, they had a similar DRM built in. Gamers revolted, and then Microsoft rolled it back entirely. They had to, because it nearly killed the Xbox brand. PlayStation has earned your ire today. This is a company whose console is known for having no games on it, and yet they keep making anti-consumer choice after anti-consumer choice. In 2024, Sony shipped millions of copies of Helldivers 2, and then retroactively required users to log into the PlayStation Network, or the game would just stop working. Gamers revolted, and they only partially rolled it back. In 2023, Sony announced they were deleting movies, shows, and videos from Warner Brothers that customers had purchased, not rented. Gamers revolted and forced Sony to roll it back. In 2024, 2025, and most recently just a few days ago in 2026, Sony has continued to raise prices on nearly 6-year-old hardware, where now, in the United States, a PlayStation 5 is $650 for the base console. It's even more expensive in other parts of the world. Concord, Marathon, Fair Games, Horizon Hunter Gatherer, God of War Live Service, which thankfully was canceled. Sony doesn't even want to ship real games that you own anymore. Everything is live service, everything is rented, everything is microtransaction heavy. PlayStation Plus costs more now. Dynamic pricing means I might pay $20 and you'll pay $40 or even more for the same copy of Goat Simulator 3. And as of today, there is a 30-day always online DRM built into your PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, whether you can see it yet or not. You need to get loud. You need to get angry. You need to fight back. In videos past, I said stop buying, speak with your wallet. Yeah, that's good, and that's still good advice. Keep doing that. But we need to reach the normies. It's the normies that need to be forced to wake up. And the only way that that's going to happen is if you get angry enough to fight back and call out anti-consumer acts. Even if this whole thing is a bug, which a series of outlets have claimed that the whole 30-day timer might be unintentional, a bug introduced while patching exploits, their own customer support is contradicting that claim in writing. But the truth is, it does not matter which one of those is true. If it is intentional, Sony has installed a kill switch in your console without telling you. If it's a bug, Sony has installed a kill switch in your console by accident, and the public response either way needs to be loud enough that the cost-benefit calculation forces them to reverse. The action is the same in either case. Get loud. Stay loud. All the major gaming conglomerates have earned your anger. Use it and fight them. Until next time, create, innovate, inspire others to do so as well, and for the love of God, cancel Disney Plus.